Hi guys, welcome to this Chris Ryan golf video. We're going to do a video here covering some short pitch shots. So just off the green, where we've sort of got to carry the ball maybe 10, 15, 20 yards, let it land and roll out to the flag. We're going to talk about the golf club, the different parts of the golf club and how they interact with the ground when we strike the golf ball and when we can use these shots and which ones are best for certain situations. So the two areas of the golf club that we're going to talk about are the leading edge, where the club face meets the sole, so this part here, and then the bounce of the golf club, which is the sole part here where the loft would normally be written on. And we can get certain different bounces in that area there, so we can have sort of low bounce, maybe 4, 5, 6 degrees, right up to about 12, 13, 14 degrees. So the different parts of the club we can use in different situations for different things. What I would like you to try and do when playing these short pitch shots is try to utilise the bounce of the club a lot more. Now the only way we can utilise the bounce of the golf club is when the club shaft is fairly vertical, or vertical as looking at it from the camera. As soon as we start to put some lean towards the golf club, towards the target, so the handle gets closer, we start to bring in the leading edge. Now the leading edge, as you can probably see from this, is a lot sharper. And what that's going to do is it's going to dig into the ground a lot more, and it's going to mean that you have to be a lot more precise with your contact. Especially sort of this time of year now when the ground conditions are changing, certainly getting a bit wetter. If we start to play these shots with a forward lean in the golf club, bringing the leading edge into play, if we strike the ground slightly too early, we're going to get the golf club sort of digging into the ground, and that ball's probably not going to go much more than a couple of feet. So we can get the ball close with that method, but it just means we have to be a lot more precise. If we can start to use the bounce of the golf club, it gives us a lot more margin for error. It's called the bounce because that's exactly what it will do. As we strike the turf with that part of the club, it will bounce. Now, generally, if we're playing with the club shaft a lot closer to vertical, we will often find that the approach is a lot more shallow. So the golf club is closer to the ground prior to impact, and then obviously under the golf ball at impact. If we play with the handle forward, we tend to get the golf club coming for a very steep position here. It comes a lot more down, there's a lot more interaction with the ground. And again, as I've just said, that brings a lot more missed strikes into play. So if we want to strike the golf ball with the club shaft fairly neutral, we should probably start there. Okay, there's no point starting over here and then trying to return it to a different position. So with these shots here, we want to really try and get the starting position to mimic the impact position as much as we can. Now, my personal preference would be to have a little bit of weight on the left side. So I've got a little bit more weight on my lead leg. And as I take my starting position, you can see that the shaft is fairly close to neutral. I know there's a little bit of lean towards the target, but that's okay as long as it's not too excessive. You should also notice that the handle is a little bit forward. Okay, it's not way over here, but it's definitely not too far back. I would probably rather have the handle in line with the club head, or even a little bit further back than too far forward. Okay, so from this position here, we can keep the weight on the left, we can just move the golf club back and through, and we can start to use the bounce of the golf club. What you're going to find is, no matter what the lie, whether it's a tight lie, sitting down or fluffy grass, this method will give you a pretty good result most times. So I'm just going to show you a couple of these different shots, and I want you to watch the interaction with the ground when I play them. The first one is with a lot of shaft lean this way. Okay, and as we strike this golf ball, you can see there wasn't really any follow through whatsoever with the golf club. As my golf club came quite steeply into the golf ball, hits the ground, no follow through. Now luckily I managed to strike that ball first, but I wouldn't have had to have been far out, and that golf ball would have probably gone 3 or 4 feet in front of me. This one, going to play it weight on the left, shaft is a lot more neutral, and I'm going to try and use the bounce of the club, and we get a much softer ball flight, there's no divot, and the golf club continued through. Now, the added benefit with the second one is that we're playing with a bit more dynamic loft. Now, dynamic loft is the loft that we present to the golf ball. So not necessarily what's written on the bottom of the golf club, but what we actually present to the golf ball. If I play with a bit more dynamic loft, that's going to give me a higher takeoff angle, it's going to give me a steeper drop angle, and I'm going to get a lot more control over the golf ball. The first one, with a handle forward, using the leading edge, the ball's going to come in a lot quicker. It's going to be a lot lower ball flight, it's going to land, it's going to take off. It's a lot more difficult to control. So for these shots around the green, these sort of 15, 20 yard pitch shots, if we can start to get ourselves set up, weight on the left side, handle pretty much in line with the golf club itself, and we can start to feel that we use the bounce of the club, keep the body turning, and we're going to get some much better results if we can do that. Okay, good luck, give it a go, and hopefully you'll get some closer results.